So Christina Horner, aka I Talk to Snakes, did this big tag video called My Firsts, and she's tagged kind of everybody who watched the video, so I'm going to do that now, and you're going to find out about all kinds of firsts, except probably the ones that you want to know about. The first question is, what is your first job? My first job was at the summer camp that I attended and then worked at for about 10 years. I did my CIT training for 2 weeks, and later in the summer they called me back and said, hey, do you want to be the camp babysitter? Which essentially meant that all the adults who ran the camp, all their kids needed somebody to, you know, kind of look after them for the day. So that's kind of what I did. Every day we just kind of did whatever we wanted to, as long as we checked dinner once in a while and went and begged snacks off the camp cooks. What was your first car? My first car was a 2005 Mercury Cougar. I got it in 2008 when I was a sophomore in college because freshmen weren't allowed to have cars, and I went to school 3 hours away, so my parents got tired of like going and getting me. I only had it for about 7 months because in January of 2009 I made the really stupid decision to drive back to school on the tail end of a blizzard, which I never recommend doing that because then you're in a horrific car accident. I mean, I was fine except for like my nose got squished because the airbag went off, and like when you trap your nose between an airbag and your glasses, you kind of get a bruise that spreads across your face, and like my ribs are all bruised from the impact of an airbag going off in my chest. Like I was okay aside from, you know, that, but my car sadly got totaled, and I miss that car. It was a really sweet car. Who was the first person to text you today? My mom texted me this picture of one of the plants that we have out in the front yard. The snow kind of made it look really silly. Who's your first grade teacher? I don't remember if it was Mrs. Kowach or Mrs. Miller. I actually really don't remember first grade, like, at all. Where did you go on your first ride on an airplane? I was really little, so it was probably to go visit my family that's up in Connecticut. Who was your first best friend, and do you still talk? My first best friend was a girl named Kelly, and we went to daycare together, but then we moved away when I was 4, so no, we don't talk anymore. Where was your first sleepover? I believe that my first sleepover was at my friend Ashley's house, and she was actually the first girl that I met when we moved here. She lived around the block from me, and it was either she slept over at my house or I slept over her house, if we're not going to count like cousins spending the night, because I have a really big family and the cousins usually like spent the night places. Who's the first person that you talked to today? That would be my friend Andrea. She always texts me or messages me on Facebook. My mom's cousin. I don't really remember it because I was 3, but I have been told about this story pretty often, so I can tell you guys the story. I was sick at the time of the wedding, so I really wanted nothing to do with it, especially the little flower tiara that flower girls are probably required to wear as international law. And then came the actual wedding ceremony, and I didn't quite understand to just walk straight down the aisle and drop flower petals like you're supposed to. I walked down the side of the aisle and dropped one petal at a time because everybody told me to remember to not run out of flower petals before we got to the end, and apparently this was so cute that I made all of the old ladies in the room cry. What was the first thing that you did this morning? I rolled over and tried to go back to sleep because, again, Andrea was texting me, but then I just kind of gave up on that, and I checked my email and made sure that all my flight information was correct, while Andrea continued to text me about how bored she was at work. What is the first concert that you ever went to? The first concert I ever went to was the Alive Festival in 2005, which is like the biggest Christian rock festival, and it's around the Akron area. And I went to go with my friends to go see Reliant K and Switchfoot together. Actually, Reliant K opened for Switchfoot, and it was actually a really good concert. What was your first broken bone? I have yet to break any bones, and I would like to keep it that way. What was your first piercing? My first piercing would be the 2 holes in the front here, and then I got those in 3rd grade, and then the second piercings that I have, I only have these 4 piercings, but my second holes I got when I was 15. First movie you remember seeing? The first one that comes to mind is Aladdin. I saw that in theaters. I know that Charlotte's Web was my favorite movie ever, but I don't like remember seeing that one first. Like that's just an ever-present constant in my childhood because I did watch it a lot when I was a kid. So the first one that I actually do remember seeing was you know, the genie popping out of the lamp in the theater. That's for some reason that really sticks out in my brain. When was your first detention? My first and my only detention, which I am still angry about, was when I was a junior in high school. We had these career planning things, whatever, in my English class, and like it was super important that we had everything together, or like we'd use it for the rest of our lives and blah blah. I have never touched that thing. I don't even know where it's at. I learned how to do a resume and I've made my own resumes ever since. I've had no use for this whatsoever, so I'm still angry about this detention. The penalty for not bringing this thing was you get a detention. And I remember that I had a dentist appointment that morning, so I went to the dentist and then I went to school right after, and I didn't have it because it was sitting on top of the computer, and I was like, dentist, I'll get it when I come back, and I didn't go back. So since it was second period, my teacher was like, well, I will remove your detention when you bring it back after lunch, because I live in a town that's this big and you could go home for lunch. So I went home for lunch, I grabbed it, and I came back, but there was a substitute after lunch, and the substitute thought that I was lying and, you know, refused to revoke it. So I went and I served the detention, which the detentions at that time had been changed where you couldn't do your homework. You had to copy pages out of the dictionary, which gagged me. I don't really want to do that at 7 o'clock in the morning. I don't want to do that ever, but definitely not at 7 o'clock in the morning. And then when I went to second period English, Mrs. Hart was like, well, if you turned it in, why did you serve the detention? I was like, because if I didn't, I would have had to go to detention every single day next week, because that's the penalty for skipping. Who was your first roommate? Are we talking like summer camp or band camp or college or what? I've had a couple of first roommates. I was in a cabin with like 5 other girls when I went to summer camp, and then in band camp, yes, we actually did like go away to band camp. We went to Slippery Rock University for a week. I roomed with my friend Danielle our first year, and then at college, my freshman year was one of the only years. My college roommate, or my senior year roommate, I was okay with her, but I did get tired of her by the end of the year. My freshman year roommate was the only non-psychotic roommate that I ever had who didn't try to kill me or backstab me or anything like that, and her name was Jenna, so I really do appreciate you, Jenna, for not being psychotic. What were the first lessons you ever took? Dance lessons. I took jazz and ballet and lyrical and hip-hop and tap. And I also took gymnastics, and I took dance for 6 years, and I still was never very good. I wasn't very good at it, but I didn't practice, so that might also have something to do with it. And who was the first beauty-related person on YouTube that you ever watched? I think this must have originated on like a beauty channel or something. My first beauty channel person, I don't remember what's her name, Asahi Sasaki. She's a very beautiful Japanese makeup guru. She's like wonderful, and she does all these really cool like tips and tricks, and she always goes to all these seminars. So yeah, tagging people, if you want to do it, just do it and say that I told you to do it. All the questions are going to be down below. You can go and check all that out and all the links and everything that I have down there, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.